Mama, they don't want you around. Mommy doesn't want you
Well,
around.
she can sit right here, honey.
Go there.
Sit down. Okay, here we go.
Be quiet.
Whenever you're ready, Jordan.
What's it say?
Name.
Name. My name is Jim Evans. Birth date? Born on August 24th, 1940. In Oroville, California. Oroville is up north of Sacramento, about 75, 80 miles. Yeah, birth, that means where I was born. What is your earliest childhood memory? You know, I was thinking about that earlier. Probably I can think of a couple. Probably the earliest is that I can remember is looking down into the crib, looking at my brother. And my brother had just been brought home from the hospital, and I was, a little over 3 years old. And probably another one would be when I was a kid, we had a creek running between my parents' house and my grandfather's house, and I remember throwing rocks in the creek, and sailing boats and wooden boats and stuff. Okay?
Ask a question, Jordan.
How do you think that school is different today
How do you think it's different?
from when you were a child?
Let me think. Of course, I'm a teacher now, so thinking of it as a teacher, but as a kid, of course, first of all, we had one teacher, and there was only one class per grade. All the kids fit in one class. In fact, I skipped kindergarten because there wasn't enough kids in the kindergarten.
Wow.
And when my graduation from high school, there was the class of 1958, only had 18 kids in that class. So it was a lot different. For example, for me, the main difference was like in high school. Everybody played every sport, just about. And they needed everyone. So I enjoyed that, being able to play all the different sports. And we knew everybody. Lived in a little school, a little town, everybody knew everybody. Okay?
What was your favorite game to play as a child?
Well, probably with a lot of kids would probably hide and go seek, capture the flag. Do the kids know about those games nowadays? Kick the can. You might ask your teacher about kick the can, some of those games.
Jordan likes hide and go seek.
You like that? Okay. Well, some games don't change, but I'm sure you have a lot of different games today. The big difference I see is that nowadays it seems like kids need more stuff to play games. They need more equipment. They need something to be bought so they can play a game. In those days, to play kick the can, all you needed was a can.
Yeah.
Okay.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
I had two brothers. They were both younger than me. No sisters.
Did you live in the city or the country?
Okay, in those days, I know a lot more people lived in the country than do today. But I lived in a little town, Portola, California, which is up in northwest of Reno, Nevada. It's in California. There were 1,600 people in the whole town. The high school that I teach in today, we have 2,800. So my whole town was smaller than my school is today.
What did you do to help out?
Well, I did as little as possible as a kid, probably a lot like kids today. But the major thing I did to help out around the house was we washed the dishes when Mom asked us to. And our biggest thing was probably to hoe the weeds and stuff. Every spring when the weeds would come up, I was the oldest. And so I was always elected to go out and hoe the weeds. When I was a little tiny kid, at 5 years old, when I was 5 years old, we lived in San Diego, California, and my mother used to pin notes to my shirt and send me to the grocery store. And that was during the Second World War. And my mother said they used to send stuff home with me that she couldn't buy because it was on rations. And they'd give it to me because I was so cute.
What was your favorite toy?
I don't remember a favorite toy, but probably if I had one, it was probably the ball of some kind. I always liked to throw a baseball or shoot a basketball, or almost anything that had to do with some kind of ball.
What was your favorite
That's right.
subject in school?
That's hard to say. I was in elementary school. I was pretty good at most things. I was a good speller. I really enjoyed spelling bees when I was in sixth grade, for example. Our teacher was a really good artist, so he would draw pictures of all of us kids trying to climb up this mountain. And of course, the girls usually won, and they'd end up on the mountain, and us boys would be falling all off. But he would do that with spelling bees. And as you missed the word, you'd fall over backwards and down the mountain and so on. And I enjoyed that. I was pretty good at math in those days as well. But I must admit, by the time I got into high school, the math skills became more ordinary. In other words, I'm really good at straight math and that kind of thing, but I wasn't very good at things like trigonometry and
How
okay.
has life changing for you? How has life changed for the better?
Hey, go ahead.
What do you wish?
Wait,
Did
did that one.
we skipped Jordan?
How has life changed for the better since you were a child?
First of all, everything's, I guess, the things that we get to do are more fun. I remember my parents when I was a kid, my parents never had fun. My dad never rode a bicycle. My dad he never went for jogs or walks with us kids. Adults, it seemed like all they did was work. The mother worked in the house, and when she got through doing the work, it seemed like she'd go and start over. TV, we didn't get a television until I was 15. No such thing as computers. So nowadays, we have a lot of fun things to do, a lot of extra time, and a lot of extra activities that we can do that are a lot of fun, whether you're a child or as an adult. I love it. Okay.
What do you wish was still the same?
I guess I wish that families were still so close. Again, when I was a kid, most of our family lived, relatively close by. We could visit each other's families easily. The farthest anybody lived was 100 miles, but most of the family lived, just real close. Nowadays we have Jimmy in Minnesota, and we have you guys in Stockton, and we don't see each other as much as we'd like to. Not that we don't appreciate it when we do, but it'd be fun to be able to spend more time together. But yet at the same time, we have more of you. When I was a kid, there wasn't that big of a family. Now we have a really big, nice family. And I love all my grandkids, which we have 15 of, by the way.
Wow.
Okay. 3 questions.
You think of a question you want to ask?
Want to ask a question about your mommy when she was a kid?
I don't know anything.
Well, no, he knows all the answers.
What would you like to know about your mommy when she was a little kid?
I don't know.
Why don't you ask him about his mommy?
How about your mom?
Say, what does she like to do?
What does your mom like to do?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't know my mama when she was a girl. that she used to tell me about how she liked to play baseball, and she liked to play jump center on the basketball team. In other words, when my mother was in school, girls played basketball, but every time they made a basket, they had to jump the center again. They had to go to the middle of the court and jump the ball over again. It was a completely different kind of game than we play nowadays. But she liked to play softball. It was kind of interesting that. Well, another question, something that comes to my mind is it mentions 3 questions. And we go back in history, and my grandparents, they met on the side of the road, and my grandfather was a stagecoach driver. And it doesn't seem that that long ago, but yet here we see in the old cowboy movies and the old country western movies where the old stagecoach driver, and he was just some kind of mythical character in my mind, to realize that my own grandparents met when he was one of those stagecoach drivers. I thought that was kind of neat.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah. And my grandfather was a locomotive, steam engine, ran a steam engine. And just recently, another thing that comes to my mind, just recently I've been reading a book about the railroads being built across the United States. And there was a steam engine that was used when the Golden Spike was driven in Utah. And that engine, many years later, was brought to Reno, Nevada. And my father used to run that engine once a year on a historical, their historical holidays, whatever they call it. Anyway, he would get to run that engine, and it was a really neat old steam engine, and I never really thought much of it until I'm reading this book, and it's talking about this Jupiter, this engine, the Jupiter, and this was the engine that my dad would run.
Wow.
And it was kind of neat. Well, my grandfather used to run the old steam engines and was in a wreck one time in a steam engine. My father was in 2 train wrecks. So I guess I'm glad I didn't become actually, I started out on the railroad, and I thought I would love to do that for a living, but we soon gave that up. I decided that I wanted to be a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
But,
Didn't you say you wanted to be a school teacher too, Jordan? Who is it that wanted to be a school teacher?
Bria.
Oh, Bria wants to be a school teacher. What do you want to be, Jordan? Never mind, sit down.
I just want to get through this class.
He says, I'm all fidgety.
I just want to get through this grade and satisfy my teacher.
Is there anything else you want to know about? Why don't you ask him what he used to do in his little town he lived in? Like, did he have movie theaters, or... Jordan,
Are you being spoiled?
are you being fidgety?
No, we're already on this page.
No, you're supposed to ask your own questions.
Did I do 3?
No, that's why I'm
didn't do
trying to
any.
help you. Jordan,
Your mom is trying to get you to think.
they're
about
not written down, silly.
it. See, it says here, write 3 questions and answers of your own that you wanted to answer. Actually, I probably answered 3 questions.
Yeah.
It's just he didn't ask the
So
question.
just ask him. Ask him about what kind of phone he used to have.
What kind of phone did you used to have?
Well, when I was little, I remember the first phone we had. You had to walk up to the phone, and it was on the wall. It had a thing sticking out, and you had to ring it, and you had a thing you put in your ear. You held it up
Look
to your
at
ear.
Granddaddy. He's
You
trying
held
to
it up
show
your
you.
ear, and then you talk into the phone, and the telephone operator would ask you what number you wanted. Then you tell the operator what number you wanted, and then she would ring it for you. And then you'd talk. But you had to get the operator. You couldn't dial directly like you do nowadays. And there was no rotary even. And I remember my grandparents, I used to call them all the time. Their phone number was 129.
Mm-hmm.
And like I say, you didn't phone that yourself.
Do they live in Portola?
They lived in Portola.
What if you wanted to dial outside of Portola?
You'd have to tell the operator who you wanted to call, what town. again, I was pretty small then too, so I never ever had to do that, but I know that's pretty much what they do. And even more interesting, at least to me, was when we got phone calls, our phone, you had party lines.
Oh.
So whenever your neighbors got a phone call, it rang your phone.
Oh, how funny.
And so you had to count the number of rings.
Oh.
So you knew that your ring, like my grandparents were on a line by themselves. Well, if it rang, it was them.
Mhm.
But with us, I think we were on with 5 people. So ours rang 5 times,
Oh,
and
funny.
that was us. If it rang 4 times, it was somebody else. And of course, you could, if you wanted to, I mean, if you were sneaky, you could
Just
you
pick
could,
up the
you
phone.
could pick up and listen to other people's conversations.
Oh, how funny.
I suppose they would probably know if you were doing that.
I've heard of party lines, but I've never
tried
seen,
that.
never actually.
Yeah. Now you mentioned the movies. When we used to go to the movies, you know what it costs to go to the movies nowadays?
How much?
Well, if you
It's a
wanted,
lot,
if
huh?
you wanted to go, how much would it cost your mommy if you wanted to go to the movies? You know, what, $3, $4, $5 for anymore?
Mhm.
When I was your age, we went
Jordan, look at
To,
Granddaddy.
when I was your age, it cost 20 cents.
That's
dimes.
not even a quarter,
2
Jordan.
dimes, and you could go to the movies, and the movie would play all day. In other words, it would start like
Oh,
at
really?
noontime, and you could stay as long as you wanted to.
They just keep playing over and over
As long as
again.
you wanted. My grandfather used to tell me about, we went to a movie, and I don't remember the name of it, but we got there before, and just after it had started. And so he said he spent 8 hours in that movie with me, because we had to watch both features, and then come around to where we'd come in, and then I talked him into staying again to finish the movie.
Mhm.
So from that time on until he died, almost whenever when he would talk about me, one of the things he would talk about was
You wanted
having
to
spent an
stay.
8-hour day in the movies theater with his grandson. So